This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and this is a very special episode, Patreon sponsored. We have Frank Solano, longtime listener, joining us to talk about one of his favorite movies. At least I'm assuming so, since he's paying to be here. Hi, Frank.
Hey.
Hi. And the movie we're talking about tonight, In the Mood for Love, from the year 2000, directed by Wong Kar-Wai. From Letterboxd, the tagline for this film, "Feel the heat. Keep the feeling burning. Let the sensation explode."
Yes.
I feel like I saw that slogan on a stuffed crust pizza that I ate a while ago.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So the synopsis here. Taking place in Hong Kong of 1962, a melancholy story about the love between a woman and a man who live in the same building and one day find out that their husband and wife had an affair with each other. So, In the Mood for Love. This is a movie that, in the blossoming days of me becoming a real cinephile, this movie had just come out and was all the talk. It was on all those like best of lists that year. Wong Kar-Wai, like he could do no wrong at this point. You had Chungking Express and stuff like that. So he was like kind of like still like a new director, and so we're now watching this movie 18 years, talking about it 19 years after it's come out. And so this also was like one of those rare occasions where we're talking about a Criterion movie that came out relatively close to when the movie had been released in theaters and like whatever. So it's kind of rather than a movie that's looking like more of like a retrospective, you're looking at a movie that's like new still for many people. It's the second part of what Wikipedia describes as an informal trilogy. There's no name for this trilogy. The films, I guess, are all set in 1960s Hong Kong, and kind of follow mostly the same character for two of the movies, and then they kind of touch upon events from the first movie. But and we'll talk about more about that, I guess, as we get going. So this is the second time I've watched this movie. It has been like 15 years since I'd seen it last. The version of this that I have is actually the Canadian release, which Seville put out, because it was like super cheap in comparison to buying the Criterion. But every time I look over at that Criterion cover, which is a real nice showcase of like the Wong Kar-Wai aesthetic between the great photography, your lead with Maggie Cheung, and like the amazing dresses that she wears in this movie. So yeah, like the movie was like kind of foggy to me. Like all I really remembered was that like once the movie started going, I'm like, oh right, it's the movie where like they find out their mutual spouses are cheating on one another. But then I'm like, oh right, they live in the same apartment building. Oh yeah, they're like they kind of are attempting to like have their own relationship, and it's just not going to work because of their personalities. So this was all like coming back to me as I was watching it. But like probably my favorite thing about this movie is the editing of it. It is done in this like really tight elliptical style, whereas like if I imagine this movie coming out now, each scene that would like transition into like these time jumps would take these really long slow fades to black and then fade back in, and it would add like 30 minutes to the movie just from all these fades. And I'm sure that maybe at one point he thought about that, but then when he put it into practice, it's like, that's insane. And I'm pretty sure audiences will just understand if it's like really quick, because it makes total sense and it works so well. The movie's like, because of that, it's paced so well, and it just allows the audience to like make these connections, that because they're intelligent human beings that can like watch a movie and be like, oh, I understand exactly what's going on. And then there's these other like subtle things that the movie's doing too, where it's like you never see their mutual husband and wife being in their affair. Like it's just like off camera. They're literally off camera because it's not their story, but it's them who are driving the events of their relationship in this story. And yeah, it's like this very small kind of like tale of unrequited love, I guess, and slow motion. And that one particular piece of music that kind of accompanies it in this rhythmic way. So yeah, I've always liked this movie. It's been a long time, but like Chungking Express is like, I think, pretty tough to top. I think that's like Wong Kar-Wai's best movie, but I would say that this is his second best movie. I'm trying to think of other stuff to talk about this. I don't know if anyone else of you, either of you guys noticed, but Wong Kar-Wai's got a thing for women's butts, particularly like them walking upstairs, because there are so many shots of like Maggie Cheung's like pendulous ass walking up and down stairs in those dresses, and then it's like other women in the other movies, he's shooting them that way too, and it's like all through it, and I'm like, what? Everyone talks about Tarantino's feet, but no one talks about this, but with Wong Kar-Wai. Fascinating.
I think there's something rhythmic and hypnotic to the pendulum butt, is what you said. The sway here, the sway there. It's all about rhythm, Jarrett.
Going up those stairs.
Yeah, I have more to add on that, I think, after. But Frank, you are the what is this guy's name again?
Wong Kar-Wai, sir.
Wong Kar-Wai. You are the Wong Kar-Wai expert here. What do you have to say about his fascination with the butt?
Well, I'm not complaining. Maggie Cheung is one of my childhood crushes when I first saw her in Super Cop 1993, Jackie Chan.
Nice.
So there's a shout out to Super Cop. Speaking of Quentin Tarantino, that's one of his favorites too.
That is.
Anyways, when it comes to those shots, I think there's equal shots of Tony Leung, actually. And I guess
Wong Kar-Wai's in love with his. Well, he's in love with him too.
Maybe being heterosexual men, as we are, we notice Maggie Cheung more. But I mean, I watched beginning with As Tears Go By down to 2046. I've seen all his movies going down that list.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is he, of course, he always has the recurring cast. You always see the same people. Maggie Cheung, Tony Leung, Leslie Cheung, a lot of Cheungs. There's a Jackie Cheung as well. Yeah, it's just, I guess, it depends on the story. Because what I've seen in the other movies, whoever he's focusing on, depending on their view of the other person, that's how you'll see the person through the camera. And I think the thing about In the Mood for Love is that, like, when it comes to maybe the sexual aspect of it, it's a lot more sensual than it is sexual.
I was going to say, you got to throw a sensual in there. I mean, you wouldn't be doing a review of a Wong Kar-Wai anything if you don't say the word sensual.
Sensual.
Yeah, but I guess it's part of that, the unrequited, how do you say that? Unrequited?
However, we don't say stuff right on this podcast.
Yeah,
so.
that's kind of the gift.
You don't have to either.
Okay, well, I'll say unrequited for now until I figure out something that sounds funnier. But it's the same idea, I guess. I guess almost unconsummated love as well, maybe.
Sure.
If you could put it like that. Wherein maybe the sequel, where you see just a lot of sex.
Yeah, it's when he gets his groove back.
But
Stella?
talking about how, there's the three movies, and what I didn't know before watching 2046, actually, I found out that Maggie Cheung's character in Days of Being Wild and In the Mood for Love are the same person, which I didn't know before, supposedly. And then, according to Wikipedia, the know-all website that is Wikipedia, they're supposed to be the same person, and then In the Mood for Love and 2046, Tony Leung's character is the same person.
Yes, yeah.
So even though Days of Being Wild doesn't focus on Maggie Cheung's character, it's supposed to, develop. She's supposed to develop from there into the Mrs. What's her name in this movie? Miss Chan.
Yeah.
In The Mood for Love.
Interesting.
So I don't know, because
Because there's the comment in 2046 about like that, like that's like the only reference to Days of Being Wild is like saying, she had like a Chinese Filipino who came from a rich family, but then he died. Like there's some like that's like the only real like kind of bridge to that movie. Whereas like the one between In the Mood for Love and 24/6 is very explicit because it's like you're following Tony Leung like in his like jump because there's the mention of like in The Mood for Love him talking about like writing for like martial arts stories, which like I'd love to read what those are, or if like is that a real thing, because like I'm
serials
like writing in the newspapers.
I wrote down just when he's like when they're stuck in the room together, that scene, and she's like, what are you writing? He's like, oh, The Drunken Master just came in. And because Maggie Cheung and Super Cop and Jackie Chan has Drunken Master, I'm imagining Jackie Chan, Drunken Master. I don't know. I just wanted to say that.
For serials? I mean, why not? Look at our serials. It's just like, I don't know. It's like sci-fi stuff. I mean,
yeah. No, I never have heard of it. Like I've never, I don't know if that stuff's ever been translated that I know of. That's like come here, or if it's become popularized. Like, because there's like lots, like serials get like popular in other countries all the time. And then other countries have like their own like thing that's super big, but you've never heard of it in other places. So like I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, their daytime TV, like they still have like the Wong Shu like Waxian like fantasy stuff that plays all the time. That's what their soap operas are, period pieces that are like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sort of stuff, like to this day. But so I was like, oh, he's a writer of this, and that's like a goal. But I'm sure it's like being a pulp writer, like in the 60s. Like it's the same idea, is that you're kind of like a hack who's like not making real literature, but you're just kind of it's a way to make a living. But anyway, enough about butts and such. What did y'all think about In the Mood for Love? I don't know, RJ, you've never seen this movie before, or even familiar with the name of this director.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Okay, I've heard of Chungking Express, all right? I've heard of that one. But do you want me to hit you with it a little bit and then let Frank come in here?
Yeah, do it.
All right. So, yeah, I didn't know about Wong Kar-Wai. Not nearly at all until Frank had been emailing in on the podcast for the last couple months and brought it up and said that he thinks that I would be a fan. So I did watch this alleged trilogy, just like you guys did, as loosely defined as it may be. And there were a few things I noticed, a few things that I liked, a few things that I was like, But this In the Mood for Love, I can say that Frank was right. I am a fan of it. I do like it quite a bit. I am, as you guessed, a romantic at heart. I found this movie really sad, but it's also kind of kind and inspirational. That's not the right word, but like it's like it kind of gives you this ideal to look up to, where I think a lot of this movie is these two people trying to get something that they want with who they are, with who they have already, but they can't. So they're trying to get it with the other person, but they also don't want to do that either because they want to be better than the people that have hurt them. And it's kind of like it's a tragic thing, I think, but it's also something to admire, I guess is what I'm saying. I have never seen any Wong Kar-Wai movies. But I watched these three. I think out of the three, In the Mood for Love is the one I liked the most.
Yeah.
I really like what Jarrett said. The editing is awesome, where I also liked kind of how fast paced it was. Because it's kind of like, it's no bullshit. He's like, you'll figure it out. You know what's happening. Jump. Next. You don't have to like layer in all that stuff.
Well, and all the scenes go into one another so well too.
Yeah. They all go into each other, and I think the reason why it's so effective is because he has a lot of scenes that he lets breathe, as Jarrett would say. Like some of my favorite scenes were where it would just be a body shot of our lead actress, like in the doorway, and it'd be her kind of like moving and walking around, and he just gives it time to kind of let it happen. You don't really see her; you just see her kind of moving around the frame. And the thing that I think that I liked most about this movie is the way he has the camera and the way that he kind of captures body language. So a lot of the subtle gestures and expressions that they have in their mannerisms, I think he shows that really well, where he kind of has a lot of like obtrusive angles. And what I mean by that is like there's a lot of things that are either blocking the shot, or he hits it right at a certain way where the corner of a wall will block half of what you should be seeing. And I think it's really effective. So it'll be like a corner of a wall, and then you'll see the back of the guy or the lady, and they're just kind of like there. But it works really well because of those really subtle details that they have, where like one example from this movie is where our leading lady goes to return. It's either when she's dropping off mail or returning the books, and she's waiting in the doorway, and she has her kind of hand on the edge of the door, and her fingers are kind of moving up and down, and she's peeling it, and she's looking around. I really like that because I don't know what it is. It gives more character to them, I guess. You see them in these kind of quiet little things that they have that everyone does. And I thought that was really nice. And I think one of the reasons, again, why it was so effective is because he doesn't waste time on other stuff. And he can let scenes like that just have as much time as they need. So I think...
To speak to that, too, like the body language comment is like the one thing I really, really appreciated and liked a lot in the first, like, half of or first quarter of the movie is like when Lung and Chung are like first like kind of interacting with one another. They're like very pleasant and indifferent to one another. So there's no like weird, like if this was an American movie, they'd be like checking each other out and passing, and there'd be like some weird like, oh, maybe they're kind of into one another. But no, they're so completely like indifferent to one another. And it's like I always think about this now, especially after watching Phantom Thread and just like watching like how in control Daniel Day-Lewis is as far as like his eyes. Like you don't notice this stuff. And then like you see like an actor working and you're like, oh no, he's in absolute control of everything, including his eyes. So his eyes aren't in the weird wrong place. Like when you see like amateur actors, they're lost, right? Like they're kind of like, what am I supposed to be looking at? I'm going to look at the camera. I'm going to be looking for like, what's my line? Where's my confidence? And these two, they're just like, oh, hi, yeah, see you later. And they just walk past one another. Like they were literally doing it and the camera captured them in their life. Like they were like, oh yeah, they're just like exchanging pleasantries. Hi, yeah, I'm going to my apartment now, see you later. And like they're like that's it. There's no like will they won't they until later. Like it's like kind of saved because most people are like not like, ooh yeah, I'm gonna drink you in, I can't wait to see you again. Like it's just like nope, that's not this world, that is not these characters.
Well, the other thing that I really like is I think he builds it up really well, like with the camera and the way he frames stuff is like showing the distance between the people's, like the two leads, their actual significant others. He shows the distance really well, where you either just see the back of them or you like hear their voice, but you never actually see them. It's a really nice way to like distance that out a little bit. But yeah, I really like kind of like what you were saying, like the rhythm and the cyclical music almost, like the way that they continue to use that song. And then I even like when the story kind of like it hits the turn where they go from like acquaintance to friends, and then you get introduced to a new song, and then that song is present a lot, and that comes back. I really like it because I don't know, this movie, like it for me, and this is gonna sound kind of corny, but it kind of plays out like a dance. Like it's this subtle sway back and forth, and it's very rhythmic, and everything that is happening visually, and even like the characters and the plot, it's kind of going back and forth, and it's very smooth between this and that. And there's a kind of like quiet intensity to everything. And I really dig that. So it is, as Frank would say, sensual. But no, yeah, I like this In the Mood for Love. I think it was a really good show. I know Frank has been itching to get at it for a long time. So I'm interested to hear any hot takes or not even hot, but just hear why you like it, I guess.
Well, all the reasons you guys said, they're all very valid. They're all exactly part of what makes my love for this movie. Yeah, and I guess it's all the little things. It's from what I've heard about Wong Kar-Wai, and you can see it in all his movies. It's that he loves photographing beautiful people. Tony Leung, Maggie Cheung, anybody who's in a Wong Kar-Wai movie, they're all beautiful looking people.
Yeah, ridiculously attractive. Like
Yeah,
they're movie stars. Yeah,
they photograph so well, and like it's just the idea that no matter what like setting, no matter what like place they're put, what situation they're in, they look the role, and then they have the acting chops to like meet, you know, the requirements to really set it in. And so there's things like in the beginning, say when Maggie Cheung's on the phone at the at the office, and she's wearing that green dress and the green curtains in the background, she blends in. And Maggie Cheung isn't someone that you walk by on the street and you're like, you don't notice them. Yeah. But somehow in this movie, you don't notice them until they want you to notice them, you know? And it's just kind of the idea, like she blended in the beginning. Both of them blend into their surroundings almost. And they're just, they're very, like, it's like they're, like what you guys were saying, that kind of respect, that kind of, I feel like it's wholesomeness almost in a way.
Yeah.
Those values that they carry with them. And it's funny talking about it like that because they're actors. This isn't the reality of the actors, maybe, but they make it feel like these aren't just actors. These are living people. Yeah. Like you said, you capture them in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like more like it's like not a documentary because it's like but it's like not shot that way, but it's like these are just like real people going about their day, and we're just getting a glimpse at that.
Yeah, and there's those little things like Tony like just his eyebrows. I literally wrote that down as a note because when he's thinking and he realizes something, he will like furrow his eyebrows for just a second. Just like for 1 second, he'll dip his eyebrows, if that's how you call that, whatever it is. But like it gives it that much more reality, even. Like if this wasn't a movie and you just saw if a movie you hadn't seen and you just saw a picture, you might have not even thought that it was like if you didn't know these people were stars, if you didn't know Wong Kar-Wai, like if you had just seen a picture, you would have thought it was just that's a really nice picture. Like that's probably real people from that time, that era, even. And it's not. It's all fabricated, but fabricated in a way that you believe it. Like it's I love this movie.
And that you have that Christopher Doyle cinematography who he gets a lot of that love because it's like this is a movie that just like it is so well photographed. Most movies like aren't like shot like this. Like it's just like these movies don't really come along very often where they're like like every single shot is just like gorgeous. And I kind of mentioned earlier, it's like the dresses that Maggie Cheung wears in this. So I was like wondering, I'm like, what is like these things are amazing. Like these are so like I don't usually pay that much attention to like clothing in movies, but in this it's like those like I think it's pronounced kipow dresses. They are like they remind me so much because like every scene, and it kind of like accentuates the time jumps. It's like every scene she has a new dress, and it reminds me of Robert De Niro in Casino, where in that movie every scene he has a new suit, and so he's got like 30 different crazy, ridiculous, garish, ugly suits, and it's like which I love, and it's always been like one of my favorite things about that movie. And in this, you have like these dresses, but they're actually like fantastic. And I was on the little DVD I have. There's like some mention about the dresses, and like I guess like in 1960, one of these dresses would have cost like 60 Hong Kong dollars, and now like to make those same dresses it's like 2,500 because it's like and they're using all these like unusual fabrics and then like designing these things, and I guess they kind of did a slight alteration to how they would normally be worn with like the higher collar because it would like but I mean the whole dress, like it's this like thing to like hyper accentuate like the feminine body, and it's like so I mean again it's the. And then you have on the flip side, you have Tony Leung in his suits and like that manner of like the '60s man suits and stuff like that. But I don't know. That's just like one of my favorite
earth tone suits.
Yeah, Yeah, no, that's like, yeah, there's just so many visual things that I like about this movie. But and then so yeah, I don't know if want to talk a little bit about the bookends of this trilogy, Days of Being Wild and 2046. I will say that I wasn't really all that much into Days of Being Wild. There's something about this movie, like I think I was into it for, and I found this with both these movies. I was into them for about an hour, and then like I just kind of I check out. There's something about about these movies that like lose me, which doesn't happen within the Mood for Love. Like Days of Being Wild, it's only been like a week since I watched it, and it's already fading rapidly from my memory. There's certain things I remember, particularly like all the exchanges between the girl and the like security guard in front of the building, like the cop, like all that whole sequence I thought was like really, really well done in this like really great like short story vignette that I'm like, that's all this movie really needed to be. But then it's all framed with all this other kind of stuff that I was just like, I'm not really feeling this like, I don't know. It's still got all these aspects that I think he's working through, because this is his second feature film, his second movie ever, and it feels like it's like still like him working through stuff, and like he would mature and go on to do better things. But I don't know. What did you guys think of that Days of Being Wild?
You want to hit it, Frank?
Sure. I'll chime in. I think really what. Okay, so I gave it a 4.5 stars on that Letterboxd, and I guess in a way, because I'm biased, I love Wong Kar-Wai and I like all his stuff. But so far, at least, I haven't seen his newer stuff yet. But I don't know. There's just, I guess when it comes to the story, and I saw that in a few of like the reviews and stuff about it, the idea that these characters, the main character that they're following, what's his name, York? I think some versions have Yudi. I'm not sure. Anyway, Leslie Chung. Leslie, his character isn't someone that is, and actually it's the same thing with 2046. It seems like the character isn't somebody that you like very much, because what they're going through, well, like their history has like caused them to become this person where they don't value other people and their emotions. And so I guess that's something that easily like distances people like from the emotional side of the movie, where I guess for me what filled in for that emotional aspect would be the cinematography. Just like the green and the darker shades in the movie. I feel like that's really what elevated it just that little bit more for me. And of course, Maggie Chung and the Andy Lau, playing the police officer, those scenes. And I think even what's her name? The girl, is it Karina Lau? I'm not sure what her name is. Let me see. Karina Lau, yeah. I think her interactions, whenever she sees Maggie Chung, I think like her acting, she just seems so angry, so jealous. So, you know, like she's spiteful even. Just the fact that Maggie Chung has a history with Leslie Chung's character. And it's just, I feel like that worked for me as well. Even like, as Jarrett said, it seems like I watched this a week ago. And a lot of it has actually faded as well. I was watching scenes right before we even started recording just to see what would stick, because it didn't seem to stick. It's funny thinking about it. It's like the movie didn't stick as much as In the Mood for Love, or even Chungking Express, or some of his other movies will stick with you.
Right.
Yeah. You know what stuck with me was how that Nicholas Winding Refn just stole the entire idea of Drive from Days of Being Wild, where he goes and beats the shit out of that guy with that hammer.
Oh,
I watched that and I was like, is this Drive? What's going on here?
Now that you mentioned that, yeah, that's like the one thing I was laughing about, because it's like often in like Chinese movies, there's like a bludgeoning scene, like a man being attacked with a hammer or something, just being beaten down, because they don't have guns there, because it's like if you do have guns, you just get like executed. So it's like there's this long thing of like, you just get beaten with hammers, just like in Kung Fu Hustle, or it's like, it's just like you just get beaten, which is like way funnier for the audience.
That's probably why Jackie Chan sticks to throwing chairs at people and ladders and stuff.
Yeah. Only the really bad, only the really bad people have guns, but it's like not fun, you know.
Yeah. But so that's one scene that stuck out with me. I liked Days of Being Wild. I thought it was good. Again, like I liked In the Mood for Love the most, but I did like Days of Being Wild for a few things. Like what you said, Frank. I think the color tones are great in this, where there's a lot of oranges and like greens and yellows, and it all fits so well together. I really like that. There's a lot of real intimate close-ups. Makes you feel real tight and personal with these people, because I think that's what you want in your romance movies. I think there's some really cute, playful romance in this, like a lot of little things, like where people will touch each other just very softly, like a little light like poke on a leg or something like that. I thought there was a lot of nice little scenes like that in here. And then I also thought there was a lot of different levels of like love, where you see a lot of different characters. You get like the absent dick guy who like doesn't really care and he just uses it as a thing. Then you have like the obsessed woman, you have the side love, and then you have like the old love, and even like the familial love where it's like the mother and son. Like, and it's just like a different kind of thing. So I thought this one had like a lot of different levels, where you had a guy who wasn't interested, then the girls who were the obsessed one, and then the one who's a little bit more timid, and then you have the guy who's in love with her and he's timid also, maybe, or are they just friends? Is it a friend love? And then you have like a parent and child kind of thing as well. So I like that, because there's a lot of different, I think you could take a bunch of different things out of that. But yeah, Days of Being Wild I thought was pretty good. Like, I don't remember it a lot either, but I remember liking it.
It's funny. There's a lot of love, but maybe they just weren't in the mood for it, you know?
Hey, they weren't there yet. They weren't ready. They would take another 10 years.
10 years to get there.
Actually, another thing that I noticed was, I feel like Days of Being Wild. Okay, I've heard that Barry Jenkins, director of Moonlight.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's been heavily inspired by Wong Kar-Wai. In fact, I think he's one of the voices, like in one of those videos that Criterion releases, talking about these movies.
3 reasons.
And like, yeah, the scene where Leslie Chung goes to see his real, his biological mother, and he gets mad that she doesn't. What is it? She doesn't go to see him. She doesn't go to meet him. And he's walking away, and he doesn't turn around. And just a shot of him walking in slow motion, it just, there's just some shots in Moonlight like that of of Little when he's a kid, when he's walking home, or just all these shots like from behind, and just like, I guess in Moonlight it's the blue color, but in Days of Being Wild, like I don't know, you'd have to see it side by side. You could see the parallels, and like I feel like that is part of the reason why Moonlight was so good, because it took the best aspects of what Wong Kar-Wai does, and then they put their own spin on those aspects, I feel.
Yeah.
That's a little shout out to Moonlight there. But yeah, Days of Being Wild, man.
Yeah. and then you got 2046, which was it didn't follow the pattern of 10 years later. It was only 4 years that this was made. So like, part of like me like prepping for this movie was I decided to go on this kick of watching like 2001, 2010, 2020 Texas Gladiators, thinking like, yeah, this is gonna be like this like weird science fiction movie. But it's like, no, it's actually just like a continuation really of what's gone on before, with this like interlude of like a science fiction story kind of like thrown in very awkwardly, I would say. But like, so yeah, there's like, so this continues on the Tony story of the protagonist there, and what he does after In the Mood for Love, which is like he gets horned up, and he finally knows his way to like get women to sleep with him, and becomes a slut with a mustache, and he's just working his way through Hong Kong, sleeping with all the ladies. I guess it's the 60s, it's the swinging 60s, so opportunity rings. And it's like him coming back to a hotel or a apartment
Come on.
building, and continuing on having these torrid affairs with beautiful women because they find his mustache so irresistible.
So
And
attractive.
it's horrible.
That's
It's
all day long.
That mustache is terrible.
Hey. I thought that was a good mustache. I don't know what you're talking
And then,
about.
especially when he had half of it shaved off for like 2 frames or something. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh, it was there because that was a gimmick because he lost a bet. Yeah, see that was very I'd call problematic. It's like why would you wreck such a beautiful face with that thing? I don't get it.
Shameful.
But 2046. It's he's now become a science fiction writer, which really put me into mind at one point of like Kurt Vonnegut's Kilgore Trout, his fictional science fiction writer, and so I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That it's like, I wonder like if there's like sort of a autobiographical element at all to like Wong Kar-Wai, or if this is still very like removed from himself, like if he was always like. Or because there's nothing in his work that says I want to make science fiction movies, and so he's making a story about a science fiction guy. But I'm like, does he actually have any interest in that? I don't think so. And this is as close as it gets, which is kind of like a pretentious sort of like what a guy does when he doesn't like science fiction is he makes a movie like this where he's like, well, because I have disdain for it. And then you have these like scenes that are like, well, I'm a Japanese man in my science fiction story, and you're like, okay. And like I don't even want to begin to parse out relations between like China and Japan.
Don't do that.
I'm not going to touch it. It's a mess. There's a lot of hostility there. I read The Rape of Nanking.
This episode's already going to get flagged for war crimes from that review of Tiptoes.
Oh yeah, that's true. Very controversial. But yeah, I don't know. So 2046, I had the same experience kind of Days of Being Wild, where I was kind of into it for like an hour, and then I just kind of was like, oh, I kind of stopped caring about what's going on. Like, I don't know if it's just like Tony has just become so like unlikable and like so removed from the character I liked in The Mood for Love, and I'm like, why has he become such a like a scumbag? And then like by the end of the movie, he comes back around. He's like chilled out a little bit, but he's still a dick. Like a total asshole. And I'm just like, I don't know about this. It's like, is there gonna be more of these movies, and like it's gonna be like another decade with him and like him dealing with whatever bullshit he's dealing with now. And like the CGI in this is so bad. It's like I don't know. It's I don't know. Sometimes the Asian countries do not do CGI very well in their movies. And
can you elaborate on that?
Well, have you watched many like Japanese films, Chinese movies? They have like
even the recent Shin Godzilla had some pretty egregious CGI.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes it works in a charming way, but in this though, man, it's like it's 2004, but like I know I watched 2001 a week ago, and that movie is amazing and immaculate, and just like seeing this, it's like whoo, and like it's like this. I don't know. I kind of got the movie, and then I got it, and then I got it again. I mean, I didn't dislike this movie. I'm coming off pretty strong on this as like being like a bad movie. It was okay, but like again, I kind of I feel like kind of like the same ambivalence between these two movies. But like again, there's scenes I love. Like there's like maybe love, but like I enjoyed that I thought were like really well done. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, I don't really want to ever see this thing again. And I remember when this movie came out, and like always being like, I don't know, I'm just not ready to watch this thing. I'm just not ready. And it feels its length. I feel every 2 hours of it. And it's like kind of like his last two movies, like they're like an hour and a half each, which is great. And this one's 2 hours. And it's like it didn't need to be that long. And I'm just waiting for it to end. But that was kind of my feeling on this. This not sci-fi movie.
Mm-hmm.
What about you two?
Yeah.
Hit it, Frank.
Okay. Well, about the CGI, it reminded me most of what early 2000s DVD main menu would look like.
Yep.
That's what it reminded me of. I remember playing things like the Open Season and Over the Hedge mini games, and that's what it reminded me of the most. But with the movie, I think, like I said before, with Days of Being Wild, you you have this character, and he's so detached, so different from the Tony Leung we have known and loved in The Mood for Love. That like it's jarring how different he is, because he doesn't have that respect for women, and he doesn't have like you guys said, the watchful eye. Like he doesn't like protect. How do you say that? I was gonna say protect his vision, but that sounds stupid.
Stupid chat, Mr. Chow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't care anymore. And I mean, in a way, it kind of makes sense. But for him to have gone so far with it, with his character, and that's the thing with Wong Kar-Wai, he does know how to make pretty bad people. Like he writes some pretty bad characters. Yeah. If you've ever watched Happy Together, you know that he made Leslie Chung look like a bad guy twice. Days of Being Wild and Happy Together. And like I don't know, it just, I guess the idea that I had while I was watching the movie is like there's a lot of people like this character. Yeah. Not enough people like the Tony Leung in The Mood for Love. A lot more people like this Mr. Chow. And I guess
hey.
And I guess I don't know, it's just I feel like his performance as well, he even looked older, which for some reason Tony Leung has never looked older ever. Like even now Tony Leung doesn't look like he's aged maybe a week at most, and he looked older and he looked tired, and like it makes sense for the character, but it just seemed to me like it was more Tony Leung being tired than Mr. Chow being tired. I don't know how to explain that. I guess it just
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
The energy wasn't there. Like, and I've seen Tony Leung in other roles, and this is, I feel, actually pretty much his worst performance in my opinion. But it's by no means bad.
Right.
It's just it's not his best. I don't know. And then I guess, when it comes to all the future stuff, I remember I've actually seen a commercial that Wong Kar-Wai did. I'm not sure. Let me see if I could find what it's called. But it's the same idea. It was something about some LED lights. They were new in 2007, some new LED lights. And he was promoting them, and he made this little commercial, and it's probably one of the worst commercials that I've seen when it comes story-wise, because it tries to cram so much into, I think it was like 3 or 4 minutes. It's like some whole spy story, and the same idea, unrequited love, and it didn't fit at all.
It's like a parody of his own work.
Almost, but it seemed like it was trying to be so serious, and that's like I wouldn't buy those LED lights ever, I think. Okay, it's called There's Only One Sun, and it's actually 9 minutes. I remembered it being 3. God. So
9-minute commercial? Where did they air this fucking thing?
Probably
no idea.
On YouTube. It's like, do you remember those oh god, what were those called? With Clive Owen, he had all the guests.
I know what you're talking about.
The Hire or something like that.
Yeah, the Hire. Or the BMW.
Yeah, they had a bunch of they had Tony Scott do a car commercial, and John Woo and whoever it was. It's I remember that sort of thing. But it was all meant for online consumption. And it was in the early days, that was even before YouTube. So it was you had to go download Real Player to watch this stuff.
And even Wong Kar-Wai has one of those actually. It's called The Follow.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess it didn't translate over. Everything that he did between it's really the 90s were Wong Kar-Wai's years. From 1990, starting with Days of Being Wild, to 2000, In the Mood for Love. It just seemed like everything he did there was almost perfect.
And now he's dropped off, totally.
Yeah.
He made that Grandmaster movie that no one really cared about, and I was just cause I was wondering, cause I was we talked about, or I talked about at the beginning, it's he was riding high at this point, and then after this movie, and I don't know if it's because of the quagmire that is the like Hong Kong or whatever Hong Kong is now, but like the Chinese like film industry, it's just the worst because like you can't just do a movie. You have to like check so many boxes, like Johnny To and John Woo and these guys. It's like when they make movies, it's like, oh, you have to like make the film present China in a particular way, and so it's like, well, we like period pictures, and that's what you get money for. And if you have like these small movies, like they're like I don't know, critical of anything slightly, it's like, no, you can't make that movie anymore, sir. You have to like, so I don't know if that's just like kind of like inadvertently forced a lot of like people to retire and just like stop making movies because it's just not what they grew up with and what they grew accustomed to, and then to kind of have their hands tied behind them. I don't know, like I haven't done enough research to like confirm that, but it seems like a pretty common thing that's happened with these directors who it's like, oh, you have to go, if you want to work from your home country and it's China, it's like it's so tough to make a movie now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I guess the last thing I really want to say about 2046 for now is that it was the same idea as Days of Being Wild, where the cinematography really is what kind of gave it a little more. When it came to the colors, I feel like photographing Faye Wong, who played the I think it is a motel, isn't it? Because they stand by a sign, Oriental Hotel sign. Yeah, it's a hotel.
But it's like a long-term one where you can be there for like,
Well, yeah. So she's the hotel owner's daughter, the one that goes crazy, and she's also the bionic woman in the train. And I don't know, she photographs real well. I feel like before I got to that scene, it seemed to me like the movie was actually going by fast. I know that, Jarrett, you said it was going by real slow. You were counting the minutes, but for me, I watched the first 30 minutes, and even though I didn't really like what I was seeing, it felt like time went by so quickly. And then I was like, it switched over to the future stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
I think I meant to say like I found the first half engaging, and then the second half is just like I guess kind of zone right out, and that seemed to be when they started like doubling down on the sci-fi, like the train stuff. Yeah. And I don't know, it just seemed to me like I went to Wikipedia and I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to take a look at this plot and see what it's all about. And I feel after I looked at the plot, after I knew like what was going to happen, I could watch the movie and appreciate it a little more, which is weird because you wouldn't think something like, you know what's going to happen and then you could still appreciate it. I have done that many times and it does work.
But that's why I think it was the cinematography. After I went and read what happened, I knew like, okay, it's going to go by slow now because I know what's going to happen. Now I just got to wait for it to come by. But in the meantime, I could take a look, the critical eye on this cinematography. And I feel like that's what, it's not a 4.5-star movie. It might be like a 4-star movie if you're being generous, which I was because, Wong Kar-Wai. But I feel... Anyways, the performances are good. Zhang Ziyi is like I think she's like a high-end prostitute kind of thing. Like it's never
Jarrett.
Explicit.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. Anyways, like her performance, like she does what Tony Leung and Maggie Cheung did in The Mood for Love, where you feel like she is falling for this guy who this prick who he doesn't care about her, but she definitely cares about him, and like you can tell. And then I felt like stuff like Gong Li, Gong Li's character, was it the Black Widow? What did they call her? Something like that.
Spider, yeah.
Black Spider. Her character, all that stuff, the stuff from Singapore, along with like some of the stuff from his novel, from the 2046 novel, that all felt like it didn't fit as well. Yeah. I don't know. But this is also the movie where like he didn't focus so much on time, which is weird because in The Mood for Love, you get the ticking clock at the office. In Days of Being Wild, that's how the character Leslie Chung starts the conversation with the, stand by me for 1 minute. Look at this clock, this watch. And then in his other movies in between, all the movies I saw, even his very first movie, As Tears Go By, they all have like the presence of the ticking clock of the moving time, where this one didn't have it, and so it felt, and it is longer than the other movies. I don't know what happened.
RJ,
what gives Wong Kar-Wai?
what do you think about this 2046?
What can I say that hasn't been said? Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty much the same spot as you guys. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. When this movie started and there was all this futuristic sci-fi shit, I was like, "What's going on?" I was a little confused for a minute, and then, yeah, like when it dips back into it, I was like, this one seems a little different than the other two. There's some sexy stuff in here, but no, I still like. I thought it was good, but yeah, I don't hold it in the same regard as the other two. So, you guys said most of what I. Yeah,
I guess another thing is the when it comes to the black and white scenes. So, I don't know if you guys remember this. Whenever he's in the car. Anytime he's in the car, it goes to a black and white scene. For at least that's what I remember seeing. Anytime he was in the car, and I guess I don't think there's any black and white scenes, at least that I remember, in The Mood for Love.
No, I don't think so.
In the movie Happy Together, it's almost exactly like the same. Like where they're in a car and it'll go to black and white. And so it feels like 2046 is a mashup of everything he did in the 90s to 2000, except like just, like he just couldn't figure out what to do with himself, and that's what he did. I feel he was also pressured, wasn't he? I heard something about at the Cannes Film Festival, like they were playing the first reel supposedly while the last reel was coming in, like from the airport or something crazy like that. Like the movie was playing and they still hadn't like completed like getting the movie to the festival. Something crazy. I don't know.
That sounds crazy.
Well, I think we all can agree that In the Mood for Love is tops. Wonderful movie. But you know what, guys?
Quite good.
There's some people who disagree. Because we have to do the segment. Who hates In the Mood for Love? We have 2 half-star reviews from the same guy, Tony Zhao. He writes, I literally laughed out loud at the overdramatic crying sound effect Wong Kar-Wai used, or as he refers to him here as WKW. It's like something out of a bad Chinese soap opera. When I read that, I was kind of like, what is he talking about? Like, all I kind of remember is when in Days of Being Wild, there's some like kind of like goofy like sound effects when there's like the beat down in the bathroom, and it's very like pew pew pow pew pow. Like it's very like exaggerated, but I'm like, where is that in the Mood for Love? Like, if it was there, it completely escaped me. Like I didn't catch it one bit.
Well, he's talking about crying scenes, right?
Yeah.
Maggie Chung, her character cries maybe 3 times that I remember. Actually, those are 3 of my favorite scenes. Now that I'm thinking about it, was it we haven't even talked about that when they like try to act out their spouses.
How they spring the news on one another.
Just those scenes, any scene at the diner, any scene at the restaurant, just him even putting like the spicy, I don't know what it is, the spicy sauce on her plate, just all that stuff. Right. But with the crying, maybe when he says he's gonna leave or whatever, the practice of him leaving, which is one of my favorite scenes. Actually, my little in-depth review on my Letterboxd starts out with me trying to describe that best I can. Cause but I don't know, cause it doesn't sound to me like some soap opera stuff.
Or just like the sound effect, I guess. I don't even know. And then Tony Zhao continues in a second review 2 days prior to the other run. All the unmotivated camera moves can't make the poorly acted dialogue scenes more interesting. Neither can the lazy staging and loud music.
I think this guy's a professional troll, you guys.
Yeah, probably.
His favorite movies are Geely, Howard the Duck, Alien 3, and My Blueberry Nights, also by Wong Kar-Wai. Half stars to The Game, half stars to Pulp Fiction, 1 star to Seven, 2 stars to Chinatown, He only has one 5-star movie, and it's Rampage by Yui Bowl. No. So I don't think this guy is on the level.
Yeah.
No.
He's probably not a real person either.
Probably.
He's an algorithm.
Most likely.
Well,
what's his name?
Tony Zhou. Zhou. Okay, we got here Rembrandt Q. Pumpernickel, who I think we've come across before.
This person has been on here before.
Yeah, half a star. He's like a book here. I had high hopes that a rewatch of In the Mood for Love would right me in my Wong Kar-Wai disdain, and that I could finally appreciate this well-loved director and further explore his catalog. But sadly, time has only cemented my position, and that he makes the cinematic version of teen poetry treacly, shallow, contextless, and sexless. Most of the appreciation for this film normally rests on its cinematography. People praise the rich colors of Christopher Doyle's palette and how he renders the time period of the film, but few ever talk about how facile his camera placement and lens usage are. Want to show the emptiness of someone's life? Put them in a shot with only boring wallpaper. Want to show that two characters can't connect even though they're very close to each other? Use an extreme telephoto lens such that even a normal two-shot one is out of focus. Want to convey the confusing space between two people? Don't include a master shot, so we're not fully aware of each other's relationship in the room to each other. Every shot is like nails on a chalkboard to me, like a script that's filled only with witticisms. And as far as the colors go, they're fine, I guess. But give me Speed Racer, Marie Antoinette, or The Young Girls of Rockford over this any day. But I continue here. But I think what bothers me the most is that the film feels indulgent about its time period, as if there's something good or beautiful about this innocent and unrealized love. And personally, I think that's shit. I know that Wong has done other films where sex is on display and actually happens, but at least in the two I've seen, this and Chungking Express, sex feels like something that ruins real love. This movie is a real romanticism, and sex feels like a reality that it's unwilling to deal with. And for me, that's juvenile. Sure, sex always heightens the stakes, but love for me is all about accepting those heightened stakes and taking that kind of real risk. Most of what you need to know about this film is in Maggie Cheung's line to her boss about paying attention to small details. If this film were truly subtle, it wouldn't need a line like this to tell you it's subtle. It would trust you as a viewer to be into the subtlety or not. Instead, it's the worst type, playing it subtle when it's actually as blunt as can be. Just like a teenager.
This Rembrandt Q. Pumpernickel is all over the map. They like a lot of Spike Lee stuff. They like a lot of Asian movies, like, but a lot of their half-star movies, I don't understand. Half-star to The Sandlot, half-star to Ready to Rumble, half-star to Payback and What Women Want, two of the best movies ever made, I believe. Half-star to Booty Call, half-star to American History X. Actually, some good movies in here. Half-star to Grand Budapest Hotel, half-star to Hard 8. Like, I don't know. This half-star to King Kong. What the hell? What are you talking about?
Man, what a bozo. Well, there you go.
I'm refraining from being angry, I think. Yeah. I'm trying my best.
Yeah. Well, you can't get too angry about some of these types. You just kind of shrug your shoulders and go, okay. Well, holy
how do you
shit.
Guys do this every week?
I don't know. RJ. I don't know, Frank.
I don't know how we do this every week.
But we do. We persevere. Holy cow, we've been recording forever, I feel. This is going to be probably the longest regular episode ever. So
yes, it will.
Hooray. So with that, after the break, I don't know, hammer violence and train rides with robots and sweetness and beautifully shot or something. It's been a long day.